Welcome to the podcast. Tom Matt has never done anything in a normal fashion. For example, he returned to college at 40, receiving his bachelor degree at 46 and a master's degree at 49 in 2009 from Michigan State University. After turning 50, he founded Boomers Rock Media, which specializes in delivering cutting-edge life improvement content via radio, live appearances, web, video, and books. Tom is the host of the award-winning radio talk show Boomers Rock for 9 seasons. And he's authored 4 books and co-authored another. Wow. Welcome, Tom. You have quite an interesting background. Can you tell me a little bit about where you were raised and how you came to become an award-winning radio show host?
Well, that's kind of a small question, don't you think, Deb? I mean, wow. Thank you for inviting me onto your podcast, and you guys, hope you enjoy this little lesson that we're going to do here and the lessons that will be coming in the future. I was raised in Michigan, and I wound up moving to Southern California in 1980, and I was out there 15 years, which helped build all of my bad habits into really, really great bad habits. And so that was kind of the beginning of my non-traditional life, and moved back to Michigan in 1995, got sober in 1998. And so, yeah, I have 20 years of drinking and drugging and 21 years plus now of sobriety, and that helped get me into the mindset of achieving goals, going back to school, as Debbie mentioned, and all done at Michigan State University. Go Green. Thank you to the university for allowing me to get my bachelor's and master's degree, which then led to the confidence of writing my first book. And that's how radio started, everybody. I got some coaching. I paid some money to a coach in California, and wanted to promote my first book, Maximize Your Quality of Life, which now I have 4 books written, all after my 50th birthday. And my coach suggested that I get on radio and start getting some promotions and start building some energy for the book. And so she suggested that I join LinkedIn, which I was already on LinkedIn, but I didn't know enough about it. This was 10 years ago. And so she said, get on the groups and LinkedIn and radio, and get on LinkedIn and books. And so I got on these groups and fitness groups because I just got certified as a trainer, and I wanted to build some type of, at that point, I had no idea what we were going to be doing, but a health and wellness kind of mindset and well-being and quality of life stuff. So Maximize Your Quality of Life was my whole thought process. That's why we called the book that. And the 200% Solution, which I'm very proud of that book. That's what led to radio. And we could go down the road of how that all went, Deb, if you want. I don't know how much time you want to go with the beginning of it.
Yeah, I mean, did you always want to be a radio show host, or did it fall into place for you?
Well, here's something that you don't really know, Deb. As many times as we've talked, 31 times you've been on my radio show. I was the very first disc jockey at my high school, at Everett High School in Lansing, Michigan, in 1975, 76, and 77. I was the very first student to ever get an FCC. At that point, you had to have an FCC Broadcast 3 license from the federal government. So I took the test. I had a teacher at Everett High School. We had a donated mini radio station in the school, and I was the very first guy to ever man the turntables and then started DJing and playing music in the mornings and at lunchtime, and then I was the DJ for dances, which were really big back in the 70s. You young people, dances at the high school were like the thing. And so that's how it all started. So kind of, sort of, I was always, I guess, sort of, 40 plus years later, I find myself now in my 9th season of talk radio. And so kind of, I always had kind of this dream of doing something like this. And I've always been a non-traditional guy, Deb. You know me pretty well. And it's like, hey, that's the whole thing about this, you guys. Never give up the dream.
Yeah, I guess so. So in high school, you tried this out and you liked it. And then, did you have the confidence to just pick it back up? Or how did, what, how did you make your first radio show? I mean, it's an award-winning show, three
Okay.
different years. I mean, this is a big deal. It doesn't just happen, does it?
Well, no, it doesn't just happen. And it was, again, serendipitous law of attraction is something that I want everybody to write this down. Serendipitous law of attraction. So if you put yourself the magic behind attracting good things into your life and doing the right things, crazy things can happen. So getting on LinkedIn led to me meeting these two guys that were starting this online. Now this was back in 2010, before podcasting became mainstream, before streaming was just in its infancy. And these two guys had this thought, this dream of building this thing, this all fitness radio network. It was a streaming service live. There were no podcasts. And they had this thing on LinkedIn, and all these people they were looking for hosts. I was just looking to get interviewed by somebody. And so I sent them a 2-sentence reply to their request, where all these other people were sending out these long like resumes and everything. And I just kind of threw it out there. And this guy, Sean Webb, called me back and he said, we had a conversation, and I thought I was getting prepped for an interview. I had no idea what the heck I was doing. And so he said, I think you have what it takes to be a host. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, we are starting this streaming radio network called FTNS, and which meant fitness. And they were looking for a baby boomer fitness guy, and I fit the mold, and he liked my voice. And so then we had to come up with a name. So Sandy and I, a February morning here in Michigan, snowing like crazy, started to brainstorm all of this. And, between asking Sean, how do we do this? And he said, we're going to do it all via Skype, and it'll be live, and you'll go on 3 times a week. And so we did that for a year and a half, and we were on streaming radio before streaming radio was mainstream at all. And I just started to develop this thing about learning how to read lots of articles, and started to find, I knew right away, Deb, that talking about doing a pull-up or a push-up or fitness stuff was going to get really old really fast. I could tell that, because I'm doing an hour show 3 times a week. And this was after work. And so I asked them if I could start spinning into this quality of life-ish area. And he said, yes, as long as we circle back to fitness. And so that's the thing with radio, everybody. If you've got an idea and a thought and a dream, don't be afraid to pursue it. Do your readings, write. Content is content. And so as you read and write and articles and topics become interesting to you, don't be afraid to explore the opportunities with the barriers to entry with the internet now. Anybody can do a podcast, anybody can do radio, and it really comes down to practice. I mean, Malcolm Gladwell talks about it in his books, and you just got to get reps. And the thing is, Debbie's like, you're really good at this and you've won awards. Well, yeah, and I appreciate that very much. We have done over 1,500 interviews, and after the FTNS days, we got picked up by another production company that put us on 5 days a week. They want us to do 1-hour shows 5 days a week, which we did for almost 2 years. To this day, we still don't know how we did it. So for the first 3.5, 4 years, we were on somebody else's dime. And I didn't know if this was legit or not. I mean, I had to go to my mentors in radio at Michigan State University and have a meeting with them. And that's when everything changed. And we got on broadcast radio. And that was the beginning of the real deal, where we were producing our own content. We were paying a producer. We were doing this thing weekend show. And we were on our very first broadcast over-the-air AM radio station in Grand Haven, WGHN, in Grand Haven, Michigan. And it was surreal because we'd been doing it for like 4 years, but I'd never been on broadcast radio. I was always doing the podcast streaming thing. And so now we try to cover it all. And so radio is very, very different. And broadcast radio and podcasting, because podcasting is so mainstream now, they all go hand in hand. So if you're going to do a podcast first or a stream, get yourself ready to do radio, and always think about what is your passion and your purpose and what you want to talk about. What do you find interesting? What do you think your listeners will find interesting? And just don't be afraid. Just go for it. I mean, it's like, I'm here to help you get there. I want to help you because people helped me. I hope that's a good long answer and that's short enough to.
Absolutely. It's such a mystery to myself, and I'm sure others, about how this magic really happens. And we are so thrilled that you are a mentor with the Mentor Project, and that you're going to be helping kids to learn more about all the little things that go into making an award-winning radio show and podcasting, because like you said, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of practice, but there's a lot of technology that's involved too, and in making sure that the sound is right, and making sure that even the way that it is recorded, that it sounds great. And so we're really looking forward to you giving a lot of attention to the kids in group lessons and things like that. So I can't thank you enough, Tom. And I can't thank you enough for being on this show today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. The thing that I want to close with, everybody, and this is where Debbie's really hit a sweet spot. These little podcasts that we want to do here, these lessons that we're going to put out, they're short and they're easy to digest. And so within 15 minutes, we're going to try and keep this in a 15-minute window. That's the first thing to think about. So have your thoughts together. And when we have our next lesson and we want to get together and talk about things, and Debbie records these, I look forward to giving you some tips and some ideas about how we have become so, I guess, professional at this thing. I mean, we actually made money last year. So it's like, I guess that's considered professional instead of being in the red all the time. But I'm embracing the whole thought process of paying it forward, because I need to pay it back. A lot of people have helped me, and so I look forward to being part of the Mentor Project. And Debbie's been great. She's been on my radio show 31 times of 1,500 interviews that we've done in 8 seasons now, beginning our 9th season. We just finished recording our first episode for season 9. Just before we're making this podcast, Debbie and I recorded an hour-long episode of the radio show, and it's always fun. So that's the whole thing. Have fun with this thing. Don't be afraid. I'm going to help you get better, and we're going to make this happen.
Thanks so much, Tom. You're amazing as always. I look forward to the next time we get to talk.
Okay, Deb. See ya.